Okay, this is probably going to be a horrible idea because this is one of the most difficult video games ever created, but I'm going to give this a shot.
Are these the rebels?
Let's go ahead and wait for this to pop up.
But the leaders are still alive.
Well, it says one person watching now, so that's got to be something, right?
Troops intercepting the ruffians.
Doing this at real gamer hours, when only the true, tried and true, original video gamers are awake. Do this at 1 a.m., so absolutely none of my core audience is awake. See this? I'm not doing this because it's funny. I understand that, that this is not the optimal time to be streaming a video game, but I really don't care because this is the only time that I have to do it. So, you know, you got time, you play a video game when you can. That's what being an adult is. You gotta choose between not sleeping and actually doing the things that you enjoy. So, what would you rather have? Would you rather have the sweet embrace of sleep so that your brain properly rewires itself for the next day, or play some sick Nintendo 64 games? What you gonna do? Which is better? Do what you can with what you got. Yes, absolutely. Let me know before I start doing this. Are my audio levels good? I'm gonna assume my audio is okay. Is about the best I can get it. Adult sleep never. Yep. History of Golden Bat guy. I really should do a follow-up video one of these days about good old Golden Bat. Audio's good. 6 a.m. here. All right. Cool. Let me go ahead and see if I can boost the algorithm. Give me a second here. YouTube says they like it when you like the stream. And now, have you seen this, like, this horrible future that we live in where if you say the word subscribe, apparently on a video, like, the subscribe icon lights up? Is that not, like, the creepiest thing in the world? Have you guys seen this now? I don't like that. I really don't. I really don't. Let's see. Why not? Let's do a thing here. Let's see. Anime or manga? Why not? Let's do a poll here. Anime, manga. Start poll. Why not? They like polls. They like people liking the stream. They like polls. They like it when you press F5 on the chat and just reload it constantly. Apparently, that's a thing that they want. All right. And I think we're all good to go. Let me just check a few more settings. Give me a second here. Okay, I think we're good. Give me a second, I just want to check one more thing here. Go to edit. Click this. Alright, should be good to go. Let me actually play this game. Before I start up, let me read the super chats from the last stream just in case somebody's here. I didn't read all of them. So, Breaking Through Your Fence donated $5. Says, happy holidays to you, Kenny. Hope you're having a good one. You make some good points about prices on anime becoming ridiculous. Why is a copy of Slayers Season 1 and Tenchi Muyo going up in price to the triple digits? I want to fight the scalpers. I have not heard that. I would hope, like, Tenchi Muyo on VHS isn't more than, like, you should never pay more than $10 for an anime, by the way. I would think that's what the prices are at. Don't speculate on VHS, okay? They barely play as is. You can watch, like, type in Tenchi Muyo anime full OVA on YouTube. You can just watch it on YouTube. You don't need to buy VHS tape. Faradice donated $1, says, speaking of media preservation, what do you think about video game preservation? Things like decompilations and a fan ports of older titles to modern platforms. Would you consider it similar to fan remasters of old anime? I mean, it's not really comparable. You're decompiling an entire video game down to ones and zeros. It's not, like, exactly the same. You know, I did play the Ocarina of Time on, they did that Ship of Harkinian release of Ocarina of Time. It was pretty good. I mean, you know, 16:9. Thoughts on Windaria? That's one of those anime that's, like, you want to watch it in its original form, and it never came out in America outside of this, like, really butchered Harmony Gold VHS tape. Windaria is excellent. Okay, it's very, very good. A lot of the people that worked on Leda worked on that game. But don't buy the Harmony Gold VHS tape like I did. There's better options now, I would say. Give me a second here. I think I got some kind of donation. Let me go ahead and see what it was. For some reason, it didn't pop up on the stream. Sing a song? I ain't doing that. Take your $10 back if you want me to sing a song. Not doing it. Sorry. I prefer manga just because I like seeing the original author's unchanged works, and the pacing is a lot better than anime. Yeah, well, you know, you buy the manga when you can. I said it in the video, if they released Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko in English, I would go ahead and buy that entire series in hardbacks. And then they released it, and for like some reason, the brightness levels on their printing, it was way too dark. So anything that was like slightly in shadow was just absolutely ruined. Now here they reprinted it, and they fixed a bunch of those issues, but they didn't like recall it. I think they just did a second printing, so you know, it's kind of a shame. There's a bunch of people who bought up Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko, and they have to buy it a second time now. I hope there's like a return policy for that sort of stuff. You shouldn't be like printing manga with bad contrast. I feel like we should be past that by now. Like, don't they know how to print a manga by now? Really? Like, you know, in whatever year it is that you're watching this, I feel like we got that figured out by now. At least we should, I would hope. Or, you know, you can learn Japanese. Just get the Japanese tankobons. I mean, that is an option. It's a much larger endeavor to go down, but that's a road that you could do. Nobody says you can't learn Japanese, okay? Absolutely could. Is this Chrono Trigger? Kenny, do you have phones? I'm not sure why you would ask me that. I think most people have phones. I was thinking about getting a landline specifically for, you're gonna laugh about this. There's these Sega Saturn Netlink games that you can still play with a dial-up modem, and I was thinking about getting a landline specifically to play Sega Saturn Bomberman with somebody that I know. But outside of that, no, I don't have a landline, if that's what you're asking. Thank you for the incredibly weird question. Someday I need to watch more of the second OVA. Why, yes, I only read harem manga. This is a horrible game to be streaming, by the way. This is like one of the most difficult video games of all time. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I have like the chat boxes to the right. But for donations and stuff, it's all on the main screen because I don't have a dual monitor setup like I should be having. So anytime there's any sort of donation, I have to pause, which is not good. Ideally, what you want is a little tube TV on your desk, and then you got your monitor and you're all good. But I haven't figured out this whole YouTube thing, you guys. You know, I'm a new YouTuber. I just started this, so I think you can set up a virtual landline. That would probably work. I should look into that. That sounds a lot better than actually getting a landline. I wonder what that costs these days. Like, what does a landline cost? Couldn't be. Is it like more than 10 or 20 bucks? It couldn't possibly be, right? You don't need a landline for Sega Saturn. Dianjo donated $2. Says, "Whoa, rare Kenny Lauderdale stream." Yes, it is. Where's your Trinitron? My Trinitron is at a completely different house in a completely different state. So, you know, I really should be going to Retrotech and having him set me up with one of those Trinitrons with video out, but the times we live in, man, it's everybody's just scraping by. Can't always buy tube TV like you used to in the old days. You know, it's weird. There was like a time where tube TVs were completely like not like there was like no value to them, right? And before that, it was like, oh, you want to buy a Trinitron? It was like $1,000 or more dollars, and now it's all just slowly creeping up back in price. It's weird because I remember when everybody was getting rid of their standard definition televisions, they're like, oh, why would I have a CRT? It's so bulky, it's so heavy, the resolution, it's horrible. And now everybody wants the same stuff that they had when they were alive in the 90s, and everything's flipped around on its head, and it all came rushing back. Came back in style. So, you know, it's weird. As long as something has value in the first place, I would say it's probably always going to have value. And I don't mean that in a monetary sense. Like, if you watched an anime on VHS when you were a kid, well, you liked it back then, right? What changed? Nothing changed. The anime stayed the same, it's the people that change. However, there's people who are getting into older anime that have never seen the old stuff. So, I feel like, you know, if you're limiting yourself to only newer things, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because there's a lot of old stuff that you could be watching instead. A lot of it's for free. A lot of it's on YouTube, by the way. I mean, like, there was a lot of, you know, choice. It's almost paralyzing. There's so much anime that you could be watching, and there's, like, if you tell me, you know, I got nothing to watch, I wish there was some anime I could be watching because I've seen it all, there is no way that you have seen every anime. It's just impossible. You know, I could be watching anime 24/7 for like 10 years, I wouldn't burn through all of it. Like, Urusei Yatsura and Ranma Half alone would last you like a year, at least. Let's see, this is why we're subbed. Well, here's the thing, I mean, like, all the good horror movies, those all came out in the 80s, all the, well, I guess a lot of 90s horror movies are good too. Tremors came out in the 90s. I always think of that as an 80s movie. It's not. It's like 1990 exactly. Like, a lot of the best stuff already exists. Somebody, you know, told me, they're like, the best anime of all time could have already come out, aired one time, and it's lost media, and we'll just never hear about it. That's a weird thing to think about. The best anime of all time may have already been created, and if you don't watch every anime, you're just not gonna know. You know, there's, like, you know, people like to say that I don't like modern anime. I give modern anime a shot, I just don't really care for it. I watched, like, 10 episodes of Undead Unluck recently, and then I stopped, because I didn't like it. I was like, you know, I was like, the main character's got some cool powers, but then I got bored of it. So, does that mean that I don't like modern anime? No, I watch modern anime all the time. At least I give it a shot. There's not a lot of modern anime that I complete. So I don't know if I just have high standards or I'm old and my tastes are weird, but I give it a shot. Gotta give things a shot. The best anime of all time might be Captain Tyler, Steins Gate. I gotta get that apron that one guy in Steins Gate has. It says, I love CRT. I love that. What is the cutoff point for modern? I don't know, man. Like, somebody just told me, like, the Nintendo DS came out, like, 20 years ago. I can't wrap my head around that. That feels like that was yesterday.
I hear voices up above.
I'll check it out. Just keep the elevator moving. Talk.
Are PVMs a meme? Well, they're not a meme in the respect that they're a second monitor that you can plug a video game into and have a dual monitor setup. Like, just for that reason, that's why I want one of those, just so I don't have to be playing Sin and Punishment on the same screen that I'm having donation messages. Like, that's fine. But if, like, there's people telling you that we don't, that we can't replicate a tube TV, absolutely you could. Most of the things you can replicate. I've been following, for like VHS ripping purposes, I've been following what they've been doing with the Retro Tink, that thing that you can't even buy because the guy's making like 300 of them in batches, and it's probably going to be sold out like every single day for the next 2 years. I've been following that, and that gets you pretty close. The main issue, I would say, as far as like tube TVs that you're not going to be able to match is, like, if you're a speedrunner, obviously you're going to be playing on a tube TV. For aesthetics, you can't beat the aesthetics of a CRT television. It just has a specific look to it that you're not going to replicate. I mean, like, it's a gigantic glass light bulb. You can't emulate the physicality of that. And I would also say the refresh rate is probably not going to be able to be beaten as far as tube TVs. Like, you know, just the permanence of the screen is not going to be like it's a thing where it's just like, that's just how it is. You can get the CRT scan lines, you can get the phosphor bleed, you can do all these things. But the refresh rate, I don't think there's an OLED that's going to be able to match that. I don't even like talking about this stuff. Like, I think about it, it's just like, listen, if you're going to play a video game, just enjoy it. Can you enjoy a video game? Any time that you're playing a game, I would say is good in my book. If you have time to play something, any way that you enjoy it is a good way to play it. Because the other option is you don't even watch an anime or you don't even play a video game because you have like this ideal in your head where it's like, oh well, I have to play Sin and Punishment and RGB on like a Trinitron that they only sold at like a Tokyo Game Show or something like that. And you're just never gonna play the game. You know, life is short. At least, you know, play it once, and then maybe if you like the game, you play it later. Kenny splitting great facts. Well, you know, I grew up like, I'm dating myself, but hold on a second here. Tornado Dean donated 20 Canadian, says, for buying more VHSs so you can back them up. Well, thank you very much. I do have the Doomsday Duplicator. It's hard, like it's spelt D-O-M-E-S, but it's spelt Doomsday. In that video, I misrepresent the name of the product. I have the Doomsday Duplicator coming in. I tried to set this up like a year ago, so just to clear up what this guy is talking about, I'm going to be throwing lossless VHS rips onto YouTube by hijacking the radio frequency from a VCR before it's processed, and then what you have to do is it's like 12 hours to process an hour and a half of a VHS tape this way, but the end result is you have a 1-1 copy of whatever you put in your VCR. And I tried to do that for like a year, and Windows didn't want to work with what I wanted to do, because apparently you have to do this with Linux, so now I have a Linux Mint distro that I have installed on a completely separate computer, and then I couldn't get it working, and all the people on the Discord were like, it's Windows, and I'm like, well, I'm not on Windows anymore. They're like, you're screwing something up. And it turns out the Doomsday Duplicator I was mailed was completely busted. Apparently there was something wrong with the ADC board or something like that, and it was just like faulty on release. I got it in the mail and it didn't work. So now I actually have one that works coming in the mail, and I'm going to be able to make all those 4K VHS rips that I've been wanting. Hopefully I'm going to get over this hang up where I want to have like the perfect video quality for my anime videos, and I'm going to have it. So I'm going to be able to just be like, oh hey, yeah, here's a VHS tape from like 1987. Now it's perfect. I'm going to be able to show it to you. ADC chip didn't work. Yeah. Apparently it was just like a bad batch. I don't know if it was because of like supply line shortages or something like that, but it was just like broken. The guy, I bought a Doomsday Duplicator. It was like $600 for this thing, and it showed up and it was broken, and I thought it was me. It's just how it is. Dude, like kinda, but in a way not so much. Check the jams and they always tickle my fancy. Does anyone know what year this game came out? This is the early 2000s. This is one of the last Nintendo 64 games that came out. That's the whole reason that this game didn't come out in America, even though it's like completely in broken, well, it's English. Even though this game is basically completely in English, they didn't release this thing because it was like so late in the Nintendo 64's life cycle, they decided it wasn't a good idea to release it in America. Which is a shame, because if this came out in America, and this is like the real cartridge that I bought at an anime convention. I don't know if that counts for anything. I feel like it does. If it had come out, I would have bought it. I mean, I was still playing like Majora's Mask when that came out. I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which is like the last release on that system. So I would imagine I would still be probably into the Nintendo 64 at the time that, you know, this could have come out, which it didn't. Don't you love the video quality of the Nintendo 64? Don't you love it? Everybody wants to sharpen it up, and it just never looks good. It never does. This is about as good as you're gonna get it. Metal Slug 3 has a boss battle like this one. Thank you for the background info. It's a shame that this could have been a cult classic. I mean, you look at it, right? This is like peak Nintendo 64 here. This is hard as they possibly could have pushed this video game system. They did every little programming trick that they possibly could, and it was geared up for an American release, and then they just never put it out there. I know this is on the Wii, by the way. I'm sure a bunch of people said that came out. This game is like an anime with its plots. Yeah, this is, I like to describe this as Nintendo's Evangelion. I mean, that really is what it is. It's got, like, these biomechanical mecha in it, and, it's good. It's good. Sega games were dirt cheap. All video games used to be cheap. I remember being able to buy all sorts of things cheap, and now not so much anymore, which is a shame. I just hope VHS tapes stay cheap for as long as they have. I mean, the whole fact that they're so hard to actually get up and running properly is the only thing that's keeping them at decent prices. Like, there's some things that are just going to be collector's items. Like Serial Experiments Lane, okay, there are some, like, digital effects that, like, maybe they touch them up for the Blu-ray, so there's actually a little tiny bit of a difference between the Blu-ray version and the VHS tapes and the Laserdisc. But, like, that should not be worth $500, which is what people are paying for those VHS tapes. It's a little much, in my opinion, to watch Serial Experiments Lane and pay $500 just to have it on your shelf on VHS quality. I mean, it's cool. There's a couple of VHS tapes that are like that just by nature. I mean, Lane has that VHS aesthetic, right? So you wanna watch it on VHS because it's funny, right? Watching Lane on VHS. There's a few horror movies that are like that too. You guys ever see Videodrome on VHS? That thing shot up like crazy because it's a horror movie about a VHS tape. So it's kind of like thematically appropriate to watch Videodrome on VHS. It's kind of like the same reason you might want to watch The Ring on VHS, or maybe even, I don't know, I guess Blair Witch Project was filmed on like Video 8. So maybe that's another one that'll shoot up in price just because it feels cool to watch it on VHS. So I just came back from Corpse Party. Nintendo 64 sticking to carts is one of their biggest mistakes ever. It might have been, it might not have been. I really wish they had just scrapped the whole disk drive. Because you look at this in like Majora's Mask, it's the same size as like, it's like 64 megabytes, right? It's the same size as a Nintendo 64 disk drive game. The problem was, when they released the Nintendo 64, like they were developing this in like 1995, right? So Nintendo, you have to understand, you're just started, you're doing the blueprints for Nintendo 64. Who was your competition? It was the 3DO and the Jaguar, and those both ran on CDs. So they were looking at those companies, and they were saying, well, you know, CDs, I guess, aren't the future, and the PlayStation probably wasn't as big of a competitor back then. So then Nintendo 64 comes out, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, CDs probably would have been a better idea. It was just bad timing. I mean, you look at Sega, they released the 32X against the 3DO and the Jaguar and stuff like that. I know it's hard to describe, but like back in the 1990s, back in my day, video game technology was actually improving and getting better. Every year it would be something different. Dylan Rosh donated $5 through Super Chat, says, didn't know you streamed, nice seeing your content again after a couple of years. I'm trying to do more. I'm trying to, you know, sometimes life hits you like that truck out of Minky Momo, and you just can't do what you want to do. It's a shame. Like if this were like a viable like path for me, it's not. I could be doing like one video every 2 weeks. Wouldn't pay my bills. That's just how it is. If this were like a viable path, I would just be playing video games and watching anime and doing anime videos all day, but it's just not. Because you can't rely on YouTube to not only like push your videos out, you can't rely on them for much of anything. You know who, like, I got demonetized before, they didn't tell me what it was. They demonetized Mercury Falcon recently. He just got his channel back in good standing, and I don't believe they told him why they demonetized him. I got a feeling it was because of a couple of AMVs that he had on his channel. But like, they're not going to tell you. The whole site is basically on autopilot. You know, what can you do? You do your best, you try and be nice, you make your video, and then, you know, you get blindsided by these completely random things that they don't tell you what the rules of the site are, they don't tell you what you did wrong if you did do something wrong, so it's just like, what can you do? What can you do? Not much. I mean, unless you guys want me to, like, stream every other day. Like, that's not gonna happen. I would get annoyed with that, you guys would get annoyed with that. It's better to just, like, randomly, I would say, just do a stream, occasionally touch in with people. I wanted to stream on another site. Can't do it. Every other site I looked at is in a worse, like, situation than this one. So, you know, this is the site, this is where the people are. I hope we see more, like, VTubers switch over to YouTube because like I'm subscribed to a couple of them, and they're never streaming here for some reason, and I don't know why, but word on the street is a lot of people are gonna be switching over. I hear. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but we'll see. Alright, trying to actually pay attention to this game. Like I said, Sin and Punishment is like not a good video game to be playing on stream because it requires timing and actual reactions. You know, video games were very arcadey. And I contest that that's the general reason why Sega did not survive. Like, you can look at that 1996 report that was released recently all you want. But at the end of the day, Sega was making arcade games, and people did not, like you could tell the industry was switching over to things that were not arcade games. And like, Dreamcast is basically an arcade system. The whole Naomi, that's an arcade system. So you can't like be an arcade video game developer first and foremost and expect to like compete with Grand Theft Auto 3. That was never gonna happen. Even if Grand Theft Auto 3 was released on the Dreamcast, it's just not, it was a different environment and they could not evolve with it, which is a problem. Alright. Give me a second, I want to actually pause here. Let's see, but like the PS1 had things like Final Fantasy VII, well, it's the Sega Saturn had tons of RPGs, like half the damn console is RPGs on that system. But you can't, you know, they didn't have sports games. Sports was like the #1 thing that people bought a Sega Genesis for. They didn't have sports. They didn't have like much of anything. What was it, like 80% of the Sega Saturn didn't make its way over to America? And even then, I don't think, like, if they had released 40 more RPGs, 60 more RPGs in America, I don't think that would have helped, because on the Dreamcast it was just more arcade games, and people wanted more realistic stuff. Did my browser just puke? I don't know. Is it bad? Don't tell me things like that, because now I gotta exit the stream. Now I gotta see what's going on, see if it's actually still playing. You make me do these things. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. One thing you can do, you want to go ahead and make the stream go out to more people, just press F5. If you're not on your cell phone, reload the stream and come in. It'll make the average watch time of the stream higher, which is good. YouTube loves their interactability. They like seeing that people watch it more than like a minute at a time. Records of Lotus War, Skies of Arcadia, Grandia 2, yeah, those are fine. Those are absolutely great games, but like by then it was too late. Like the Saturn was the thing that they needed in order to stay alive. It's just, they didn't have what they needed. Where were the sports games? Sega US killed Sega Saturn because they wanted to hold on to the aging Mega Drive. I mean, they could have had both of them congruently. If you look at the Nomad, like they could have dropped the Sega Game Gear and switched over to marketing the Sega Nomad as a sort of Nintendo Switch, because that's what it is. Nomad did Nintendo Switch before Nintendo Switch existed. You know, it was a portable Sega Genesis, and they should have focused on that more, I think. But you know, it's too little, too late. It's like you're talking about like alternate realities now, where Sega had infinite money. I mean, and you look at it also, Sony, like, they get this term in Japan, they call them Zaibatsus. They're these gigantic mega corporations that have, like, infinite money, and I consider Sony one of those. Sony could have put out 3 failing consoles in a row. The PlayStation could have failed, the PS2 could have failed, and the PS3 could have failed, and they would have still kept on putting out systems until Sega was, like, gone. They just they're throwing money at you. And that's another reason why Xbox survived. Xbox didn't do all that great when it came out, but they had infinite money, so they just kept on refining it over and over and over again until it turned a profit. That's just how it is, and Sega did not have that money. The thing is, with Sega CD, devs kept throwing full motion video games at it. Like, I like those, though. I like Sewer Shark, I like Wirehead. I'm in the minority where I like those ridiculous games like, you know, that they were making. I mean, at least it was something. Like, what were they gonna do? Were they gonna release the Laughing Salesman Sega CD Adventure game? No, they weren't. I mean, they could have released, like, maybe a handful more Sega CD games. Most of the good stuff, I would say, already came out in America. Alright, come on. So this is why you gotta play on original hardware. It's not because of the accuracy, it's because of the controller. You gotta have a Nintendo 64 controller when you're playing a game like Sin and Punishment. And this game, if you've ever played it, it has a really weird... How do I put this? It has a really weird control scheme, where if you're not playing it on the system, it just doesn't control right. You move left and right with the C buttons, and then you move the reticle with the analog stick. It's like tailor-made for Nintendo 64. It just does not feel right playing it on the Wii with the Virtual Console controller. Sony was trying to cheat Nintendo. Apparently, they would have gotten nothing but a bad partnership. They almost partnered with Sega too. Just nobody wanted Sony in there because they knew what would happen. And then so Sony was like, "Okay, we'll make our own console. We'll just spend $1 billion and we'll just do whatever we want." And the Dreamcast was a mediocre system. Dreamcast is weird. It seemed like every system that Sega put out was in the middle of a console generation. Because, like, Dreamcast is in between PS2 and Nintendo 64, and it's all weird. Sony as a corporation on the whole, I meant, yeah. Even if you set your dead zones to stimulate the Nintendo 64, it's not the same. Yeah, because, like, listen to this. I'm assuming there's going to be an explosion. I'm putting my Nintendo 64 Rumble Pack next to the microphone. There's nothing exploding now. Okay, fine. But like, there we go. Ah, you missed it. There was a rumble right there. Like it's a. At the end of the day, the Nintendo 64 is like an arcade machine. It really does feel like that. You need the Rumble Pack. You need the little control stick. You need the dead zones need to be exactly accurate. And once this Nintendo 64 controller, like, wears out, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I know you can buy new ones. There's no way a Nintendo 64 controller, like, brand new, if they built one all the way from the ground up, it's not gonna feel exactly the same as original hardware. It's just not. I mean, you had, like hundreds and hundreds of people, like, in Japan, okay? Like, Nintendo had, like, think tanks where they were designing this thing. They probably factored in every single little tiny click, the sounds that the controller was making, the feedback of it. Like, it's, you want to play the system, then you should play the system. And there's a little wiggle room there, but I feel like that's how it is. Let's see, MJ Floyd donated $5. If YouTube sucks so much for uploaders, why don't they just use another video website? Because, like, well, here's the thing. That's like saying, what are you gonna do? Just build your own internet, right? Build your own internet, guys. Make your own YouTube. Well, people have tried, and, you know, it's the same comparison that I gave with, like, Sony, right? Sony was able to beat Sega into the ground with the PlayStation because they just had infinite money. YouTube is Google. They have infinite money. Any competitor that comes up, you know, they're just gonna be like, oh, okay, you guys want to start your own website? We're just gonna throw money at this until it goes away, and that's just always how it is. So I don't see YouTube going away, like, anytime soon. And the site works, so you just gotta do your best, and everything should be fine. I mean, like, I don't even like complaining about it, because, like, what am I gonna do about it? Why complain about things that you can't... I don't have any effect over, like, how YouTube runs their website. Why would I be complaining about it? Don't complain about things that you don't have control over. That's the way I view it. I mean, it's fun. If you want to complain, it's fun for a little while, but after a while, it all just becomes noise, and it becomes cringy to complain about YouTube, really. Like, I get recommended videos all the time where they're like, oh, this is gonna kill YouTube, or, you know, worst change on the website yet, and I never click on them because I don't care. Let's see, so what game is this? This is Sin and Punishment for Nintendo 64. One of the best video games of all time. Now here's the real question. I'm gonna put a question in the chat over here. I'm gonna end this poll, start up a new one. You guys are gonna like this question I have, Q&A. Okay. I'm typing. Don't leave the chat. I have to type. Give me a second here. Okay. Let's see, start Q&A. Okay, let's see, question and answer. Okay, so that's a message, question and answer. Does that work? I don't know, well, that's not a poll, that's just a question and answer thing. You know what, screw it. I'm gonna end that. I don't know how that works. Things like that, because now I get it. Let me pause this. God, I'm so bad at YouTube. I don't know how to run anything. My main question was like, would you rather play Star Fox 64 or Sin and Punishment? And I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. Give me a second here. For some reason, did the game freeze? No. No, don't tell me the game froze. I'm hearing audio, but I'm not seeing anything pop up. Did my controller unplug or something? Get out of here. No way. No way my system broke on me. Give me a second. Is that possible? Like I can... Alright, I guess I'm restarting the Nintendo 64 now. Great. See, that's how you know this is real hardware. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you play the video game, and the video game is just like, you know what, we're not gonna allow you to continue. Yeah. Alright, so I'm skipping over a level. This is from like my previous save from another. This is the level afterwards. You missed this gigantic level with all these airplanes and stuff. Oh, it would have been so good. It would have been so good, you guys, but I'm sorry, my Nintendo 64 did not want you to play that level for some reason. At least you didn't cartridge tilt, yeah. But you know, that's part of the experience too. Like you're not gonna get the game just freezing on you. On a, well, I guess you actually might have that happening. Not in the same way. Alright. I wish there was a level select on this. I would like to choose that specific level, but what can you do?
Mommy, are the monsters gone?
Could you not call me mommy?
Give me a second. This is extremely important story that makes absolutely no sense. She was sent back in time in order to save, sent forward in time in order, for some reason, I guess this, exists inside the other character's mind or something. The story in this game is just absolute nonsense. Even, there's a manga for this game, right? And the main, story is basically sometime in the future, Pokemon become real, right? They start genetically modifying animals in order to make them pets for people. And then all of these animals that were supposed to be friends for your neighbor's dog, so he has a friend or whatever. They rebelled against humanity. So these are basically Pokemon. And in the future, they multiply and they cause doomsday. That's what ends up happening. So that's what all these alien-looking things are. They're they're bio-engineered things that escaped and now take over the world. And somehow this has something to do with the main character, because he's partially ruffian somehow. I don't know why. And I think one of the other characters is an alien or something that's trying to guide humanity in a specific direction or something in order to take over the world. I don't know. It's a game that never came out in English, so I'm kind of limited by my understanding of it as far as the manual goes. Alright, So yeah, this game, it doesn't make any sense. There's a manga for it that would help, but that manga hasn't been translated into English in any way. And I would like for that to come out in English. That's never going to happen, I don't think. There's a sequel to this for the Wii. The sequel on the Wii doesn't make any sense either, so don't even worry about it. It was the last game that Treasure made before they decided to retire. There's an Iwata Asks. You know how Satoru Iwata would do those interviews for video games? With the developers? As the sequel to this game was coming out, he was in a room with the people at Treasure doing his Iwata Asks. And one of the guys is yeah, we basically, we were gonna retire. We weren't gonna make any more video games at Treasure. We were done. Treasure as a company, they said, was ended. And they said they basically, did it as a favor to Iwata. So I guess at that point they knew that he was in bad health. And then they're like, you know what? We're gonna make Sin and Punishment 2. This will be our last game. And now I think they're just like a holding company. They just hold the copyright to the video games for Treasure, and they re-release Ikaruga every once in a while, and that's basically all they are as a company now, which is a shame. They made video games, but it's like they were all just like, it was a small company from like people who retired from Konami. Then they made video games, they made their own company, they made Mischief Makers and Sin and Punishment, and that one McDonald's game and Astro Boy on the Game Boy Advance, and that was it. And they bowed out. Like, they left on a high note. Treasure Holdings, yeah. Sin and Punishment is such a dank name for a Digimon. When you get to be 40, you will understand. Yes, you will. Guardian Heroes, Gunstar Heroes. Yeah, Gunstar Heroes is fantastic. I can't believe that almost didn't come out in America.
Issa Amamaya. I can even write it in kanji.
Issa, huh? I'll remember that.
Hold on a second, I'm getting my cup of coffee over here.
This future, Issa. Let's go.
Mischief Makers is so weird and I love it. Yeah, it's a great game. Mischief Makers is pure soul, as they say. You know, it may not be perfect, but it's got a lot of character to it. Play Quest 64? Nah, I ain't doing that. I know there's that one guy on the website formerly known as Twitter, who all he does is he talks about, like photoshops pictures of Quest 64 all day, but I am not that guy, so, I mean, what can I tell you? Kind of like God Hand? Yeah, because God Hand, it was all the people from Clover Studios, they were former Capcom people, right? And then they made their own studio because they were like, well, we don't want to work at Capcom anymore. And then Clover went bankrupt. I think God Hand came out the exact same day that Clover went out of business, which was really, really bad timing. Oh, okay, I gotta jump when that guy attacks. Ah, I am not doing good. Imagine if I was playing this on a tube TV, how much better I would be, how much more I would be able to complain about how I'm not good at this game. Really, tube TVs, like if you're talking about like input lag and stuff like that, they're cope is what they are. They're people my age. We say, hey, you know what? We do not have a tube TV. I'd be doing better. There'd be less lag. I'd be doing better. Because the lag is not as bad as you would think. It just isn't. It's manageable, I would say. I mean, it could be slightly better, but it's not like this is unplayable just through OBS. Or maybe I'm just that good. I don't know. Could be I'm built different and I'm able to play the game in a way that other people aren't able to do it. Definitely wouldn't be trying to get some kind of high score or speed run on a playing through like on my laptop. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get a game over here because of time over from timeout. Ah, nope, there we go. CRT Life. You have to get used to the screen size. AAA. Please continue. Now, I hope the top one is continue. I'm assuming, even in hiragana or katakana, whatever that's written in, it's not easy to read that text. All right, giving this another shot. If I end up game overing too much, I'll switch over to something else, something a little bit more manageable for a stream. I mean, they didn't mess around when they were making video games back on the Nintendo 64. Like, if you didn't have the internet and you had Sin and Punishment and that was all you could play, I guarantee you would be very happy that this game was as difficult as it was. And there's people who say like, oh, the difficulty is like padding. All these old video games, they're hard because they wanted the game to last longer. And they say that like it's a negative thing. And I've never understood that, because like, wouldn't you want your video games to last as long as possible? You want a challenge, don't people want to challenge anymore? Don't they want to improve as a person and get better at the video game? I don't know, maybe that's Maybe that's an old way of thinking. Maybe that's outdated. I don't know. I like improving when I play video games. I like being like, oh, hey, I figured out. It's like a puzzle. Can I explain it that way? Old video games are like puzzles. It's you against the video game. There's a sense of accomplishment too. Like if I beat an old Nintendo game and I get the high score. Sorry, not the high score. The end screen on a Nintendo NES game. A lot of the time, that's like a real accomplishment. You sit there at the game over screen and you're like, wow, I beat Ninja Gaiden, or I beat Double Dragon, or Battletoads, or something like that. And you really would feel good about it. Nowadays, I don't know. I mean, are games that hard anymore? I'm sure there's tons of really difficult games, but that's just the way I feel about it. I don't think I'm gonna have much of a sense of accomplishment beating some kind of cell phone game. Probably could. It's not like cell phone games are the easiest thing in the world either. Come on. 0. Oh. Wow. Okay. Look at how little I got. 0 on the clock, and my life meter was almost completely depleted. That was close. That was close. That was clutch. Played Bangai-O, Nintendo 64. I saw Ding Dong was doing that earlier. He was playing with Julian, he was playing Bangai-O. They only made 10,000 copies of that game, so I don't own a copy of it. If you guys want to donate, like, whatever it costs to get a Nintendo 64 EverDrive, I guess I could do that. But yeah, I'm not going and buying, like, an original copy of Bangai-O. That's probably like a $500 game. I got VHS money, I don't got Bangai-O money.
I am your wife. Issa is your son. And you are human.
Are you and Papa fighting?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Most underrated Nintendo 64 game?
Mommy's scary, but Mommy's nice.
Probably that like Nintendo 64 fishing game that Itoy made. It's probably underrated. If you look at that game, the water physics are insane. It looks like Wave Race. There are some extremely difficult Japanese RPGs. Yes, there are.
I thought I should show you at least once.
Yeah, there we go. Rumble Pack.
We've only just finished the anesthesia. Now then.
Blast Corps is a very hard game, underrated. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Cutting. I'll do the rest.
Didn't the people that made Blast Corps, isn't that like partially people from Rockstar Studios, or am I thinking of a completely different game? Maybe that was Hybrid Heaven.
Powerful enemies that have been fighting
Bango is so fun, every level is kind of unique. Yeah, because Treasure knew what they were doing.
with your current power.
In a perfect world, Treasure would have sold like 10 million copies of every single one of their video games. Mischief Makers would have sold 10 million, Gunstar Heroes would have like 5 sequels by now, but
I'll live in a different
those kind of games, they're just too hard for most people.
It will be Saki who uses his powers to bring that war to an end. He'll be feared, respected, his very figure a symbol of command.
D4HC just subscribed, thank you very much.
He had the same ultimate objective. Once he knew what the
Rockstar North, I believe, yeah.
plans took shape. He bred
I don't know why I'm doing anime videos. I know so much about video games. So many things. I know so much about video games and I'm just wasting it. Nah, I'm just joking with you. Don't worry about it. Bango is like the most video game of all time, yeah. Man, I wish I had Banjo-Kazooie. Oh man, that would be fun to play. Just make some kind of video about it? Nah, I'd rather not.
Open yourself to Iron's heart. Take back your own feelings.
I was playing Nintendo 64 today and it lags so much. Were you playing on Tube TV on original hardware? It shouldn't lag. Yeah, that was back when you were happy that the game was slowing down.
Can escape me?
Slowdown isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it makes the game easier, so sometimes you wanted it. I've been watching a Banjo stream, I think it was remastered. Probably, like on the Xbox 360, which is not a system that I have. Don't forget Conker's Bad Fur Day. It is a game made by Rare. Yes, it is. I remember when that game came out. I begged one of my friends to let me borrow it. He wouldn't let me. I don't think he had it. I don't think he actually had the game. Because I would ask him, I'd be like, yeah, here, I'll give you Harvest Moon 64, and you let me borrow Conquer. And they didn't let me.
Saki!
You know, kids would just lie to your face back in the day.
Morning, Iron.
That's another thing about the 90s. Like, people would just lie about things for absolutely no reason. There'd be like no benefit to lying about what video games you had, and people would do it anyway because we were bored. There wasn't internet. We got our fun by just messing with people. Now we don't need to mess with people. Now we don't need to lie straight to people's faces. Things are better. Okay. Whoa. Okay, maybe that was not a spot that I should have been stepping in. Okay. There we go. Got evil enemy clams going on here. I wonder what those kids are getting by now. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, get that. Get the bonus. Whoa. Okay. That was not something I knew would happen. All right, get that. Left. Ah. Okay, so what I need to do here. Oh my god. All right, so this is not working out. Come on. Got him. Woo! That was cool. Okay. Whoa, left. Right. Ah. I could see it coming, but I couldn't avoid it. All right, come on. There we go. God, what a great game, by the way. Look, this is so well made. There's never a point where I'm playing this game where I'm like, well, that was the game's fault that I did bad. No, every single part of this game, if you're not doing well, it's because of you. You know, the burden of not being able to beat Sin and Punishment is on you for not being good enough at Sin and Punishment. That's just how it is. That's how these games were. You know, you don't have like a... You know, I think part of the reason that people say that you need to play on a tube TV, and don't get me wrong, there is a lag aspect to it. I think part of the reason that they say to play on a CRT is because they want any sort of, you know, excuse to like say, oh, it was the game's fault. Because like very rarely older video games would actually be at fault if you weren't good at them. A lot of the time, it was just, well, you know, I zigged when I should have zagged, and that's just how it was, and you learn. These games are puzzles to be dissected and to be memorized, and you know, that's just that's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. You know, you don't want them to be super easy. You want them to be a challenge, because like, you know, if you're doing a puzzle. You don't want to do easy puzzles unless they're like in the way. I know there's people who don't like to play like Silent Hill on hard mode because the puzzles are just absolutely outrageous. Okay, like in that respect, fine. Like I understand that you want to play a survival horror game. You don't want to write down like Shakespearean, you know, plays to be memorized later in some kind of like 16 by 16 slide puzzle later on. Like, okay, I get that, fine, but in generally, I would say, you know, being able to have a challenge is a good thing. Nothing wrong with that. And you know, it's virtual too. Like if you fail at a video game, nobody's gonna fault you for being bad at a video game. It never happened. It's a virtual reality training simulation at best. This is like a low quality version of that holodeck from Star Trek. It's not a thing. It didn't actually happen. So, okay, you failed. Boo-hoo, big deal. Did you have fun doing it? You can have fun failing. Failing at a video game is one of the most fun things you can experience. Because, you know, you can be like, well, you know, if you're always winning, that's boring too, like in that Twilight Zone episode. You remember the Twilight Zone episode where it was the gambler, you know, he's constantly winning? Because... You know what I'm talking about. Like if you're playing, you know, slots at a casino, and you're always winning, you know, that's no fun either. There's gotta be a balance, just like everything in life. So Nintendo 64, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not, and you have fun with it. And you know, I feel like that can be applied to anime as well, because like, anime doesn't always have to have action happening in it. Some of the like best parts of anime are just when nothing is happening. Like, you know, you'll be watching some Ghibli film, and there'll be... Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was supposed to be doing this. You see that? I'm learning, but it's a little bit too late. I was supposed to be bouncing those back. You know, there was a review for... I want to say Spirited Away, where Roger Ebert, he's talking about how Japanese anime artists, they'll have these things where they'll kind of like pause on like a scene of a river or a scene of a tree with the wind blowing, and nothing will be happening but like a lamp post will be flickering or something like that, just to do an establishing shot. And he says those are important because it helps you kind of punctuate something more important that just happened before it. Yeah, pillow shots. That's important. You can't have a game where it's 100% action. You can't have an anime where it's 100% like story progression either. I like filler. Did you know that? I like some episodes of Naruto or One Piece where it's just like a completely different story that didn't happen in the manga. The main problem I would say with filler, like if you have like One Piece, I'll give you as an example. At one point in One Piece, they stopped doing filler, and the pacing just became horrible because they stretched out the episodes, and then not only do you have worse pacing in your anime, but you don't get these anime original stories. And so I think actually filler is kind of good. I mean, as long as it's not taking away from the main story, it's a bonus. They called those OVAs back in the day, before they called them filler. You know, it was just a straight-to-video extra story. You know, it's a fun little bonus. So yeah, you know, pillow shots, I would say, are very important. Even in real life, you need real-life pillow shots. You need sometimes, you just need to take a walk down at the beach and see that sunset going down, and just recontextualize your life, too. Revan donated $5, says, sorry if you've answered this, but will you be returning to making videos again? Yes. Which is part of the reason why I'm doing this video, because I want to see if my microphone is A-okay. I mean, you can't just jump right back into doing long-form YouTube videos. You gotta kind of get reacclimated to the whole YouTube scene. Come on, there we go. Keep going right. Whoa, okay. There we go. Man, I love how this game changes perspective like this. Look at this. Like, this is insane. I would say this rivals what a lot of modern video games are doing. Look how creative and fun this is to look at. I'm being chased by a gigantic, like, dinosaur monster, and it went from like a third person to like a third person shooter to a third person other shooter. I don't even know what you would call this. It's a side-scrolling third-person shooter. Has that ever been done, you know, since this video game? I don't know. I feel like it hasn't. It's definitely different. You know, I've got a feeling I actually can't continue unless I defeat this enemy, because, like, I think it'll just infinitely scroll to one side if I unless I take this thing down. Or maybe this is optional. I don't know. A lot of video games are like... Okay, just keep saying go. Alright. I like that the game had the decency to tell me that I wasn't supposed to be wasting my time in this area. Good game design there. Yeah. See, because sometimes, like, a video game like this, they'll give you optional enemies that you're not, like, supposed to actually beat. I'll give you an example. If you ever played Breath of Fire 3 on the PlayStation... which I never shut up about. I know. Oh god, there's so many video games on the PlayStation. I won't stop talking about Breath of Fire 3. Breath of Fire 3 has a boss fight in it, right? Where it's like early in the game, it's maybe like 8 hours, 6 hours into the game, they throw a boss fight at you that you cannot win. It just cannot be done. You can't win it. And like, sometimes you would just get, like, locked in one of those video games where you're like, there's no way they put a boss in here where you cannot beat it. Why would they put an enemy that you can't, like, you can't fight? And sometimes for, like, story progression purposes, they would do that. So, in my mind, I was like, well, this gigantic dinosaur enemy, there's no way I can't beat it. But sometimes, yeah, sometimes they did it that way. Older video games, they threw a curveball at you from time to time. Oh, I should have dodged. I zigged when I should have zagged. Okay. Okay, right. Okay, keep going. Alright. Yeah, now I'm getting more back into the groove here. Alright, so I'm just gonna hold right. Just be running constantly. Never not running. Never not shooting either. This is one of those games where there's no reason to not always be holding the shooting button. Like, if you're playing this game and you don't have the action button down 100% of the time, you're just not gonna do as well. That's just what it is. There's like there's no incentive really to not be attacking the enemies at all times 100% of the time. There just isn't. Like, look at the game. The game just said get bonus. It gives you bonuses for defeating enemies. Now, they don't expect you to defeat every single enemy to progress, but you do get you do get like more points. Snarkmark donated $3. All the best character moments are filler, like Zuko alone. Nothing wrong with being bad at video games unless you are a games journalist. Is that a common take? Are video game journalists coming back? I feel like that's a thing that used to exist. Like, you know, there were magazines, you know, that you would learn about video games. Like, people, like, you had Electronic Gaming Monthly and Game Pro and all those other magazines. Like, nobody goes to IGN anymore, I would assume. Oh, don't talk about Cuphead. I'm not Cupheading this game, I would hope.
Please continue.
And I got plenty of continues, so if I lose 15 times in a row, then yeah, okay, probably I should take a break if I lose 15 times in a row. Yeah, I feel like there's, like, that's a thing that used to exist. Like, isn't that like, there's no more video game magazines anymore. There's no more people doing, I guess there's probably like private blogs and stuff where people review video games, but most of those people moved over to YouTube, didn't they? Yeah, Electronic Gaming Monthly was the best. Oh, fantastic video game magazine. It's a shame, I used to have like almost every single issue, and sometime in my teens, we ended up moving and we threw away like all these Nintendo Powers, all these Game Fan magazines. And Game Fan was awesome because Game Fan had anime reviews in it. You know, it was a video game magazine that had anime in the back of it. And, you know, it kills me that I ended up throwing away all that. But, you know, when you're a teenager, you don't got control over your life. Your parents are like, hey, we gotta throw away all these things that you care about, and that's just how it is. Those are probably all really, really hard to get now, I would imagine. Ah, man, this is a tough level. Alright, let me try that again.
Please continue.
If parents are jerk boomers, you know, my parents did as well as they possibly could with a person like me, you know? When you're only playing anime games all day, you know, what are they gonna say? You should keep all your anime magazines? No, they're gonna be like, maybe we don't need these hundreds of video game and anime magazines. Maybe we should throw these away. That's just how it was. Neo Hyren Gaming just subscribed. Thank you very much. I mean, at the time it was junk. At the time, it was junk. It was, you know, internet was becoming more popular. People were like, you know, what do you need all these Nintendo Powers for? They're talking about video games that were released like 10 years ago. You don't need to learn about Pokemon Crystal 5 years after the game came out. There's no reason to have this. But now, you know, you got this fondness for this nostalgia for a time where you didn't really have as much information, and You know, I would go over every single video game and anime magazine I possibly could and just memorize absolutely everything I possibly could from them, because you didn't always have access to this stuff. And who knows? Maybe in the future, it'll be harder to get anime and video games and magazines will make a comeback. I don't know. Internet could disappear like that tomorrow. Internet could just be gone one day. It could happen. Don't say it couldn't happen. It could absolutely happen.
On the front line. That's useless. That's
Man, when the internet goes out, the man with the VHS stack, he reigns supreme. You can't take away my anime from me. I have it on VHS. What are you gonna do? As long as I got electricity and I got a monitor, I can watch Gray Digital Target on VHS every single day of the week if I wanted to. Can't stop me. Solar Magnetic Storm. Yeah, I think that would wipe out actually most of the VHS tapes now that I think about that. Because they're magnetic, right? You would have to have like I don't know what would survive that, to be honest. Yeah, at that point, like, society has collapsed. You're probably not going to be focusing on watching Akira on VHS when society collapses. Or maybe you are. Maybe maybe we'll have marauding gangs of people on dune buggies and it'll become Fist of the North Star future, and you're going to have, you're going to be trading VHS tapes to one another for water distilling stations or something. The internet is a fad? Yeah, that'll never take off.
The older will die soon.
Printed manga collection, yes.
People in the bed. When I take its place, I will not make the same mistake. What I need is a god of war.
My doomsday plan is pushing a solar-powered video game cart. Well, like a shopping cart that's powered by the sun. You don't need the sun for a shopping cart. I recently found myself buying and collecting old hobby magazines. Yeah, I do that too. There's some really interesting stuff. I mean, that's part of the reason why we know that Lava Thunder exists. There's like 5 screenshots in a couple of magazines from 1986. And without that, we wouldn't even have really pictures of that thing. Will I be keeping the stream up on the channel for later viewing? I don't know, because it seems like YouTube doesn't like it when you do that. I mean, like, I don't delete any of my streams. They're still all on my site. If you want to become a member, that's one way you can be sure you can hear me talk about ridiculous Nintendo 64 stuff, if that is your predilection, if that's what you're up for. Oh, it's Earth Mimicry. Oh my god. Oh, I shouldn't be saying that, but... Okay, this final boss is very, very difficult. If you're not on top of these shots exactly when they come up, then you just are gonna get a game over. Okay, get those down, get these down, get that down. Okay. Man, this is a really tough final boss. Whoa. Okay. Come on. Look at how much health this fake Earth has, by the way. Look at that. It's got, like, the biggest health bar I've ever seen in a video game. Alright, get rid of these. Shoot these down, shoot these down. The thing about this boss is if you pay attention to every single one of these things that you're supposed to be shooting down, eventually you're just gonna game over, because like you inevitably you have to allow some of them to go through. Otherwise you're just not gonna be able to get the bigger shots. Because like if you focus on one single shot, you're gonna just end up missing more of them. Okay, there we go. Left to right. Yeah, see that? Because they spread off to the left and the right, so if you don't pay attention to them as they spawn, you just, you're gonna end up taking more hits anyway. Alright, sorry, I'm not actually saying anything in the chat. This is why I said this is like a horrible game to actually stream. Because, like, look at all this madness. Like, how are you supposed to... How's anyone supposed to stream a video game and do this at the same time? It's, like, ridiculous. If I didn't grow up with these games, I wouldn't even be able to, like, attempt to do this. Alright. See, man. Alright, I'm doing, I think, a little bit better than I did last time. I'm not going to get, like, a crazy high score on this, but at least I'm doing slightly better, I would hope. I don't know, compare my previous run to this run, and tell me if I'm actually doing better. I would think I'm doing slightly better. There's probably some trick to this that I don't know. Like, a lot of games back in the day, they just had guides where you were like, if you didn't have the guide, you wouldn't know how you're properly supposed to do things. We didn't have, like, access to YouTube where somebody's like, oh yeah, this is the optimal way, like, down to the frame to speedrun Sin and Punishment for the Nintendo 64. You didn't exactly have access to that information. Maybe in Japan, there's certain VHS tapes that they released, like, player's guides that way. But, outside of that, there just wasn't all that much. I'm gonna go ahead and turn up the game audio slightly more. Gonna go ahead and... Is the game audio too loud? Somebody tell me if the game audio is too loud or not. I just... You know, once you beat the game, you want to be able to watch the end of it.
Killed by the very people it fed.
Ah. Way too high? One guy says louder. Slightly. Alright, hold on a second. Desktop audio. See, here's the thing. On this says that it's hitting the yellow, right? There we go. So this is hitting the yellow, so this is like 20% quieter than the audio from my microphone. Alright, is this good in the chat? Can you actually hear them talking in this video game?
What are we gonna do now?
When I was little, I always wanted to be a cop. Do you think they'd hire me now?
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, that's about as loud as you're
They
gonna be able to
would.
get it.
You could kill all the ruffians yourself.
Now this is a game I
By
feel
myself, I couldn't.
they could probably never really re-release this thing properly. The first explosion was crazy though, yeah.
Want to take
We can hear the amazing voice acting.
Let's do it. At least that way we can have some fun.
Now you get to hear one of the best endings to a video game ever. Yeah, for some reason, like, this whole entire ending sequence of the game, it's not voiced. And I know there's like a ROM out there if I had Nintendo 64 EverDrive or whatever, in order to play the translated version. There's like important story stuff going on here, and you wouldn't be able to, like, clearly, like, if you can't read Japanese, you're not going to be able to be clued into what's going on here. Wasn't there a Sin and Punishment for the Wii? Yeah, that's the sequel to this game, which is also excellent. Weird to see you streaming at like 1 a.m. my time. Well, that's the thing, you know, you need to reach your core audience, like the cool people. They're not going to be awake at like noon, they're going to be awake at like 2 a.m. So, you know, what can you do? I've always heard Michael Jackson's Human Nature as the ending theme to this ending sequence. Can you make up what the subtitles are saying? I don't know, something about the nature of humanity, I would assume. Something about the future, something about the main character's son, I would assume. Real Kenny Hours, yes. Do you understand Japanese? I do not. I'd like to pretend that I'm fluent in Japanese. You're gonna have to talk to somebody who's an expert in that. You guys know that I'm like an American from America, right? I know that should be like self-apparent, but no, I'm not in Japan. I mean, like, clearly they're going through a absolutely horrible natural disaster over there right now, so no, I'm not like streaming from Japan right now. Do you understand English? I try to. I would hope I understand English. Why do you like Japanese stuff so much? 'Cause it's the best. I start my day with my onigiri and my natto and my bowl of rice with a raw egg over it. And then, I go fishing for red snapper, and I have my red snapper dinner, and I play my Japanese video games, and I watch my VHS tapes. And you know, that's the best way to live. That's the way that you gotta be doing things. You know? Nothing better than that. Do you get to hang out with Charlie? Yeah, right. I don't even know where he lives. I'm kind of close, I think, to where Review Bra probably is, because he's on the East Coast. But, you know, he's not going to give me the time of day unless I'm talking about some kind of sushi place that just opened out. Maybe there would be like a fast food sushi place, and I could do a collaboration with Report of the Week. That would be nice. I don't see that happening, but would be cool. I mean, geographically, I'm probably close. I have to be truly powerful weeb to actually learn to read kanji. I've tried, man. I got up to like 200 or so, and I wasn't even close to reading a newspaper. Like, I know, like, the symbols for fire and water and opened and closed, radioactive, things like that, symbols that you should know. You know, where the bathroom is, I could probably figure that out, but, like, you want me to read a book or a newspaper, I couldn't do that. What game this be all? This is, Sin and Punishment for the Nintendo 64. Alright, well... It's a shame that we had to skip a level, but let me see if I can start up a different game. Give me a second here.